Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. Once again, going back into the beatdown battle EX2 difficulty to get the final dupe from from these missions of Hakuro before you can just grind the event, get the currency, and buy the rest of his dupes out of the shop. This is part 2 of the video. So yesterday was part 1. We had 5 different teams that could clear it, full of metas. Unfortunately, at this point, with their level of HP and resistances and everything, we've kind of hit that breaking point of the old 5-star characters that they just don't have the raw damage to output to be able to clear almost 700,000 HP, right? For context, we weren't doing a million damage until Light 3.0, which was the last blue stacking team before EX metas came out. Like, straight up, we were not doing millions of damage. We were doing about 700,000 on optimized teams in places they were meant to be used. And anything other than that was significantly lower. So, EX metas are a year and a half old now. They are the new standard. Everything else before that is unfortunately just power crept out. Please believe me and trust me when I say that I have tried to use some of the older teams in this stage. I tried using Light 3.0. I tried using the Water 2.0 with a bunch of older style buffs. It's not gonna work. I'm sorry, it's not gonna work. So you're pretty dependent on having EX metas now at this point. But with that said, let's just jump in. All right, first up is going to be a brute force New Year's Blessing team with the EX Commander Shizu. Now she's gonna be kind of necessary because the other fire AoE physical characters, they just don't cut it. Summer Lumi, the old Christmas Shizu, I've tested them, they do not cut it. And even this Shizu, she doesn't do super amounts of damage, even with the buffs we're getting. Guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy. Crits are nerfed in this stage. Physical characters are nerfed in this stage. So we're already fighting a huge disadvantage. So the fact that we can even do it is, I think, pretty good, but you do need the entire full frigging meta of New Year's Blessing and another EX character. So maybe not realistic for a lot of players, but it can be done, so I'm going to show you. And it pretty much is just get the EX ult for Shizu on turn 2, and then never use another skill again until turn 6. Because we need the extra 30 points from Xion for the all 5 turns essentially, and we also need to avoid the bind and the attack nerf that happens. So that's why we have to go to turn 6. Otherwise, Shizu is going to be even more nerfed than what she's already going to be, and that's just not something I want to deal with. So here, turn 2, we're going to give away the orbs to Rimuru, change him to Rainbow, and then we'll bring Shizu in for that. That'll be the EX ult for her, and it'll be, we can use Xion here, or you don't. It really doesn't matter all that much, quite honestly, because after this turn, you can send 1 orb if you want. Because we're going to be at max points, and we have to stay at max points, because turn 3, turn 4, and turn 5 are going to give us 30 points each, so that's an extra 90 that we can use. We're going to need it. We're going to need it. So, now, Shizu goes away, and she never sees a front line again until turn 6, because we don't want her binded, we don't want her attack nerfed, and here we're gonna send whatever we can. Like, if you can get a decent hands of orbs, that's great. If you want to use an extra Xion, if you have 2 of her, you can, but you have to hold on to at least 1. So here, we're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna send some orbs. I'm gonna try and set it up to where we can get a lot of Diablo orbs, so we can swap him out for Shizu on the nuke and have a lot of her orbs that'll be fully buffed up just for extra damage. Doesn't quite work out, but here, turn 4, the bind comes in, and we can't swap anyone even if we wanted to. So let's just send maybe some Rimuru orbs here, or some Rimuru and Milim. Doesn't really matter. We just need to get rid of some orbs. So now on turn 6, coming up on turn 6, we have 190 points. There's the attack nerf that we don't want on Shizu. And then we have a Xion. That's what's important. So now Diablo can come out of here. We don't have enough points to use his debuff, his crit resistance down, unfortunately, because Shizu costs 80, and then we need 90. to use the extra 2 skills, or 95 points actually, from Milim and Shinsha. So we just simply don't have enough. We're 10 points shy, and there's no way to get it back. So there we go, all 3 buffs. So 100% physical, 70% EX, 70% normal alt, 40% crit damage, 20% synergy power, something like 40% synergy resistance down, something like that. And we do 657, which is just barely enough to kill Albus. So, like, even with all of this power, we only barely kill. So, maybe not a super viable team, but certainly something that you can attempt to use if you have all the pieces. Alright, the next team, we're going to go back to, the very beginning almost, with the Fount of Wisdom team. The original, very first EX meta ever to come out. Introduce the forces and everything, and, EX alts. So we've got Fount of Wisdom Diablo, very much power crept now at this point, but has a very generic debuff of just alt resistance down by 15% every single time. Albus has Pierce and Pierce resistance down, which, this stage you want to Pierce, so that's good. Plus she's got green orb changing. Double skill fused Octagram Lumi is, she's going to be essential here, because Hinata only gives herself an alt buff, which means that our Rimuru, who is actually our AoE nuker, does not inherently have an alt buff without Lumi. Now, since she's skill fused, we also get that 30% AoE buff, which is going to be pretty impactful as well. But if she's not skill fused, you might be able to get away with it as long as you have like 2 other alts, like maybe her alt or, an Albus and a Hinata alt as well, and then you can kind of maybe kill or very much lower their HP and then take out 2 of them with these 2 single targets, but that'll be debatable. We've got the free-to-play Tempest Elite Gobta. Very good for this team because he's got a single alt swap, which works. It also lowers Pierce resistance permanently, which will stack alongside Albus's temporary Pierce resistance down debuff. So that's going to be very, very good. Hinata has the special convert, so we can change turn 1. She gives Rimuru and Albus a 60% attack buff, and then, like I said, she gives herself like a 40% alt buff, which isn't that great, but, whatever, it's only for her. And then Rimuru, our AoE nuker, has the orange orb change, and then the physical buff and the physical resistance down. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 orb changers, 3 big-time 80-point buffers, plus, the permanent stacks from these 2. This is a pretty, actually, well-built team for how old it is, and it does work. And whether or not that's on just the raw power of the Octagram Lumi support is up for debate. You'll have to test it out for yourself. But it is very much doable. So turn 1, we're going to bring Rimuru and Hinata in. They have Hinata has turn 2 traits with her and Shizu, and then we can convert turn 1. And then Octagram Lumi is giving us extra protection gauge for the first couple of turns. So we'll be able to stack at a reasonable pace with this team, but it is just, at the end of the day, another blue stacking team. So, if you watched the part 1 video where I had like 4 blue stacking teams, I don't think we need to watch this entire run. It does really nothing different. And because we're not using that many big-time buffs, we don't need to hold anything. I leave Rimuru in on turn 4 just so he can get extra alt gauge, because he's the primary nuker. I want his EX alt more than anything else, because I don't want a single EX nuke and take out like Albus and leave 2 more. That's just going to make the fight drag on a whole lot longer than it should. So, alright, there's the seal for, body and spirit. Doesn't matter, we're not using any of those skills. Stacks of Diablo raises our skill cap by 30 and gives us extra skill points, and then lowers their alt resistance. So he's inherently just, very much power crept because he just stacks at a way worse rate, 30 instead of 40. It doesn't seem like it'd make a difference, but oh man, it does sometimes. It really does, especially on like the newer teams where you're already capped for points with how many big time buffs you're using. Inherently just lowering yourself down is not great, but we're actually getting fairly lucky. We do have an Albus alt and a Rimuru alt, but that's okay, because we have Gobta, so we can just take Albus out. We don't lose the orb change because Gobta has the green one, and by using the alt resistance down, we're now permanently lowering their pierce resistance by 5% each time. And since we always have an alt now, for the next 4 turns, we're going to continue to lower the pierce resistance. So by that time, it's going to be what, like 15 or 20% down on like alongside the Albus 50%. So I mean, you know, a decent debuff right there. We don't have any Pierce power going for us, but you know, it not that big a deal. This hand unfortunately is not great, but what it does do is it allows us to burn all these oranges out and also get the EX ult for Rimuru. So now he's ready to go. We still need to leave him in for one turn because of that attack nerf that's going to be put right here. So we're going to have to alt swap him again, which is fine because we don't have any other alts here. And we have a perfect orb change hand. So another stack, another orb change, boom. So we've missed, you know, one stack of Diablo. Unfortunate, it is what it is. But Lumi can come in. We'll continue using her buffs. We're at 20% of the AoE, so this is the final stack of the AoE and the second to last stack of the alt buff. So we will be fully buffed up by the time we hit turn 8, thankfully, because we have enough points. And then, yeah, we get another lucky hand. So you know what? Hinata, you get out of here. And then we can bring Gopta in. We have to use her orb change first. Boom. That changes 1. We take her out. The green comes in for Lumi, and then we can just alt swap and green orb change again. And we do have enough points left over to use the final stack of Lumi's alt buff. So now Rimuru will have 80% alt, 30% AoE, the 65% physical buff, guaranteed pierce, 60% attack, and then the pierce resistance debuffs and alt resistance debuffs. So he's going to do, you know, a hefty amount of damage for being a physical character who's not type advantage. But turn 8, we're going to bring all of the other characters in because they have all the buffs. And by giving all the buffs to them, we guarantee that we're probably going to kill everybody, or at least 2 of them. So even if Rimuru doesn't happen to kill here, the raw power that we're going to get from the Albus single targets and Hinata means that we can probably reliably take down 2 of them, and then just leave 1 enemy, and then that's not so much of a big deal after this. But we can also have enough points to orb change into a full hand of blues, and then we'll send Rimuru first. He's got defense down on his ult. Albus has pierce power, yeah, there we go, and then Hinata is raw damage. So Rimuru first, and then we'll spread the damage out. We'll make sure Albus dies with one of the alts, and then we'll spread the rest. Doesn't really matter, though, because we do 669,000 damage. Nice. So, by virtue of raw power, we can brute force our way through this with a physical, very, very old, you know, EX team with an older, well, a couple-month-old free-to-play character and Octagram Lumi, who is always free. So, there's an option for you. Next is the Visions of Coleus team, the 2nd anniversary full meta, so we are even going to bring poor little Cleash. So Lumi, attack stacking for everybody, minus Cleash. Don't ask me why. And then guaranteed synergy, which the stage wants you to synergy, so that's very good. And then Rimuru, we're going to AoE with him as, you know, the Rainbow Nuker. He'll get the synergy resistance down from Blanc, he'll get the magic buff, he'll get 100% ult damage from Blanc, or from Jean, sorry, plus the attack stacks. So, and then we'll get the magic resistance down from Cleash. So it's not a very pretty team, but it can get the job done. So we won't sit here and watch all 8 turns of this. You know, it's very easy to get Rimuru's EX ult because of his rainbow orb changing. So we just need to wait for a turn where he has, you know, a good number of orbs to convert to rainbows. And then Blanc being here means that we can alt swap away when we do use that skill, and we can give ourselves almost 3 guaranteed blues every single turn after that. So turn 1, it's just send the orbs. Nothing really new to see there. Turn 2 looks like that. Not really much we can do. So I think we're just gonna bring Rimuru in and convert, and then send 5. Yeah. And then we'll just have to make do. And then we need to use Lumi to stack up, and there's nothing else we can do. I mean, actually, we can bring in Cleash. She costs 25, that's right. That's why we brought Cleash. Never mind, see, I already forgot what I did yesterday. So, Cleash comes in. There we go. Full 6 send. We're going to get a double stack of Lumi next turn, because we were just a small nut tap away from getting it anyways. And then, from this point forward, it's waiting for a good turn of Rainbow Orbs, whether or not that's going to be on, like, the bind turn or something like that. it doesn't matter. Because Blanca's here, we're not really in danger of leaving characters up front because we can just alt swap all 3 alts away and not break our continuous blue streaks. So moving in, end of turn 3, have not used the rainbows yet. This will be the bind turn, so I'm just kind of setting it up. I guess we take them out for, you know, our primary orb changers and our alt swapper, because we're going to get Violet's alt, so that's already something. And then we have oranges and a green, and then double greens. We're pretty much covered for turn 5, regardless of what happens, unless we get really, really, really unlucky with orbs, which can happen, but doesn't happen. So we can just use the alt swap and the orb change. It's just that Rimuru is going to be missing a stack here, because, or a couple stacks, and that's just because he's not up front. So, I mean, we could have left him up front because we didn't need Cleash, but, you know, hindsight's 20/20. It is what it is. Or I could just waste some orbs here. Because we have, you know, a blue Cleash coming in, we have this Blanc orange, we can still leave it as an orb change and an alt swap, and then on turn 6, we can give Rimuru those 2 stacks and convert everything to rainbows. Because if we take Violet out of here, she's got an orb coming in, which is all 3 Violet orbs, which will then turn into all 3 Rimuru orbs, which will then give him 4, and he's already very close to an alt. So now we've got 5 Rimuru orbs that we're going to self-convert and then change to rainbows. Yeah, that worked out very, very well. Now we can give him those 2 stacks that we held off on using, and now we'll get his EX alt, and then we'll skip ahead to turn 8, because, you know, duh. Okay. So, turn 8, we have 3 alts here. Cool, awesome. One of you is going away. It's Blanc. So, 2 more stacks of Lumi. The EX alt with Rimuru. So we'll give Rimuru the magic buff. We'll put the synergy resistance down on the enemies. The weakness strike buff from Blanc means nothing to Rimuru because he's not type advantage. So not really that impactful. In fact, no one here is type advantage. We have 3 type disadvantage units. Blanc, Jean, and Cleash, so, you know, dangerous power play right there. And also, we're not going to get anything out of Jean's second skill, the 55-point skill, because that is a Primal Demon EX alt buff, and, space resistance down? Yeah, we're not nuking with a Primal Demon, nor are we nuking with a space character, so we don't need to use that one. So we just are going to use the magic resistance down, and then we'll send these follow-ups, and Rimuru does 470 something K, which is not great because they're not dead. But Blanc then comes in, kills Albus, and then Cleash can take out Sufia, which then just leaves Grucius, and then we can hit Grucius with this ult, and then we can clear it up. So a turn 8 kill now, but he is still going to die, and there's no real penalty for not clearing it within 8 turns. It's just turn 8 is a traditional nuke turn. So Cleash, 17k, poor little thing. And then Rimuru can finally clear it up. So he did finish the fight, regardless. But there's the VoC team. I have one more extra clip for you. Alright, so we're still running VoC, but in case you don't want to try and use the AoE with Rimuru, because obviously he couldn't hack it, you could instead try and go for a triple EX ult with all 3 of the primary girls. So Blanc, Jean, and Violet, because now they'll have, you know, the extra 70% alt damage from Jean. 2 of them will be able to benefit off of the space resistance down. We've gotten all their stacks, so they are pretty buffed up. This is an alternate strategy. It does work. It technically, I guess, works better. You just need a bit more orb RNG luck to be able to give them, all 3 of them, EX alts, so it does take a bit more RNG than just giving it to one character. But now we have to be careful, because we know Albus has the most health, so we use Jean, who does the most damage against her. 840. 645, and then Blanc type neutral does 871. So, also a viable strategy to use the single targets. You just need all 3 of them to hit, because if we did not do... If we only had, like, 2 EX alts and a normal, they wouldn't have killed. Like, straight up, they would not have killed, because they would have done not as much damage overall, and they would not have been buffed by that extra 70% alt from Jean. So you need all 3 EX alts for this to work. Alright, the final team, which we're definitely not going to show the entire thing, is the Idolmaster collab. Pretty sparkle team. Rimuru stacking magic attack, changing to green orbs, passively resetting the skill cost of the front line. We've got Bride Shuna, more so just for orb RNG because of the triple orb steal, in case we need a turn where we just don't want to use Rimuru or something happens. Exalted Champion Veldora free to play. That 70% green buff will offset the debuff that this stage has, which is only 50%. So we'll actually be able to benefit off of greens here, just not their damage. Dark Milim is a converter and the alt buffer. We're going to use Fire Idol Shuna, who is currently featured on the banners, but she's got guaranteed synergy, she's type advantage, she's magic, she'll work very well, but she's only single target. So we're gonna have to do this very methodically. And then we've got the goddess Shizuka, who is giving us weakness strike, alt resistance down, the live mode from the green orbs, and then also healing any damage that we happen to take. The only thing about this team is that for 10 turns and beyond, if we don't kill Albus, greens are constantly nerfed. So you pretty much are living on Veldora's green buff skill and the 40% extra protection gauge on blue charm that I have for Protector Rimuru. And it's a very, very long, drawn-out fight. So turn 1, we can't do anything. We just have to send these 4 blues. That'll get us a Rimuru turn 1. The good thing about this is that, if our front line is all pretty sparkle, they will not die. Because if we use Rimuru, they will all become invincible. So it's more of a battle of patience than anything else. Like, do you actually want to use this team? Can you use this team? Because if you weren't around in Christmas time of last year, you don't have them anymore. So we're going to stack. We're going to get the live mode, which is every green orb that you send on the turn gets you 2% attack. So you can get a maximum of 12% attack here. Plus Rimuru is stacking 12% magic attack, so you're getting 12 and 12. It's pretty nice. We're stacking 10% alt resistance down on the enemy as well. And so our job is just kill Albus first. She has the most HP. She's the one nerfing the green orbs. I want her out as quickly as possible. And by quick, I mean like 8 turns later, she's only at half health. So very much long drawn out. If you want, there are some turns, if you have the points, you can use like the synergy buff or the alt buff for Milim. But realistically, we're just using Shizuka's skills every other turn. So one turn is the live mode, and then the other turn is the weakness strike, and by doing this, this allows the other skill to completely reset down to its lowest cost, and then we just alternate back and forth, while pretty much using Veldora every 2 turns. That way, his is always reset down. So he has to live up front, pretty much, because we always need him to be reset. So the only time you bring in Milim or Shuna is if your hand really, really sucks, and you don't have a Rimuru available to use. That's the only time. And then we're also not attempting to really hold alts here. I just want them out because I want to send more greens that I can because of the live mode buff. And, now we're doing decent damage. And now Albus is dead on turn 9. But the green debuff is still active for another couple of turns. So we still have to manage our SP and our protection gauge. But now one of the enemies is out and the one with the highest HP. So now it's just targeting Grucius or Sophia. It really doesn't matter at that point. So skipping ahead to turn 12, Grucius is almost dead. We have an EX ult for Shuna now because we did hold it. And now we're like, okay, can we reliably kill Sophia with this EX ult even though she's attack nerfed? We're gonna find out now, aren't we? And then can we follow up and kill Grucius with the other orbs as well? Well, I don't really want to deal with it. So we're gonna alt swap away, wait for the attack nerf to go down, and maybe hopefully just kill Grucius outright with this turn. So, does that work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. He is dead. Okay, there we go. So now we have an unnerfed Shuna. We've not taken any damage. We have a double stack of Rimuru, so that's another 24% attack, plus the live mode, plus the synergy buff, and Shuna does 802,000 damage. So that was enough to one-shot her at full HP. So the idols can definitely work if you have access to them, but they're a collab team. That's why I left them for the last part. But there are another 4 teams that can take on EX2 alongside the 5 from the first part. Inferno 3 will come a little bit later down the line because I gotta test out teams again and see what ones of these can actually clear that as well. But if you have any other team suggestions, let me know in the comments. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.